Turn heads and bring the hype with a custom hype chain from Lotwin. Perfect for youth sports, fantasy football, or just flexing your pride. Go to Lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD for 10% off your order. That's Lotwin.com, promo code TCCPOD for 10% off. Get your custom hype chain and get hype with Lotwin. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for December 12th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Feel Good Friday edition of the podcast heading into the weekend. Big Eagles game, lots going on, so let's get right into it. First and foremost, be sure to check out the Brotherly Birds breakdown. Kyle and I talk about last week's game against the Chargers, as well as get you ready for the Raiders. That is available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Lots of comments on the social media platforms coming in already about the content on there, so be sure to check it out. I guess the big injury news that I saw from yesterday is Fred Johnson is dealing with an ankle injury. He was limited in practice, but no other real surprises on the injury report, so I guess that bodes well for the Eagles. The other news, the snow that, according to this morning anyway, the snow should be out by the time the game starts. It's only going to be 2 to 3 inches, so it should not be a factor during this game. But there was still lots of talk about the benching of Jalen Hurts yesterday, and I just really don't get it. I feel as though I don't get it. And the fact that everybody's justifying it by saying that it's a legitimate question, it's a legitimate thought, I don't think so. And I keep going back to that Donovan McNabb comparison when he was benched in 2008. And at that point, Donovan was 4 years removed from taking the Eagles to the Super Bowl. He was hurt in 2005. He was hurt in 2006. He played okay in 2007. I think he may have been even hurt that year. But he was also playing poorly for most of that season. The Eagles were underachieving in 2008. I think that is the biggest difference. And most of that underachievement was directly due to the quarterback's play. When you had the other guys like Westbrook and who were playing well, the defense was playing okay. It was all on Donovan, where this entire offense right now is not working. So it's easy to blame the quarterback as the guy, and we talked about this a little bit on the Brotherly Birds breakdown. I don't want to give too much of it away, but when you're the quarterback, you get the lion's share of the credit when they win. Everybody talks about the Super Bowl MVP. Everybody talks about this, that, and the other. And then when they lose, though, quarterbacks should get a ton of the blame. But I feel like in this case, when they win, it's in spite of Jalen. It's because of the talent around him. It's because of the receivers. It's because of Saquon Barkley, the offensive line, the defense. But when they lose, where's that same energy? Where's that same criticism? Because this team has lost 3 in a row. In part because of the quarterback, but also in part because of the offensive line. In part, Chicago, because of the defense, because of A.J. Brown making mistakes, because of special teams making mistakes. So that's where I get lost in the how this is justified, and it's a legitimate question. If A.J. Brown was balling out, if Saquon Barkley was running all over the field like he was last year, and the Eagles were losing games because Jalen Hurts was throwing interceptions, okay, then maybe you have somewhat justifiable cause for benching him. But in this case, he had a shitty game. His worst game ever. Historically bad game on Monday night. One historically bad game that was uncharacteristic of him, and now we're calling it for him to bench. And going back to that 2008 season, Donovan was horrible in that Cincinnati game. He was horrible leading up to that Cincinnati game. The team was 5-6-1 after he got benched, or the game he got benched. I forget the exact specifics of it. It was justified. The team was too talented to be 5-6-1. This team right now is in first place, thanks in part to Jalen Hurts, who, if you look at the numbers, his numbers are right there this season with Patrick Mahomes. I saw a comparison yesterday on Twitter. He's third in the league in touchdown passes. So to call for him to be benched, I think sometimes as Philly fans, we get in our own way, I guess. Maybe that's not the right way to describe it, but I feel as though we harm ourselves. Yes, I'm not going as far as what they were talking about on 94 WIP yesterday and saying we need to give them a standing ovation. Hell no. The whole offense sucks right now and has sucked. So no, I'm not giving them a standing ovation. Like, maybe that's just part of my generation, but that doesn't mean you bench the quarterback. It's just ridiculous. And I feel like it's just, I don't get it. This fan base sometimes like baffles my mind, because under no circumstance, Tanner McKee does not give you a better shot to win. If he did, he'd be the starting quarterback. Bottom line. So, and I'm sure a lot of you out there are not going to agree with it, and that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion, but it's just absolutely ridiculous. Like, people, I'm not going down that road. But in our society today, everybody is so quick to be like, cancel, cancel, cancel. We shouldn't be canceling Jalen Hurts right now. He had a really historically bad game. Okay, it happens. I told you the other day, Peyton Manning has had 6 turnovers in a game. Kurt Warner has had 6 turnovers in a game. It happens. Those quarterbacks are Hall of Famers. Not saying Jalen's a Hall of Famer, but pump the brakes, people. And again, if it was 100% solely Jalen Hurts, very similar to the way it was with Donovan McNabb in 2008, okay, I got you. But this is not a Jalen Hurts problem. This is the larger issue. Could the quarterback play better? Yes. I also think because of what he did and winning the Super Bowl, I think we might be overvaluing him or overinflating where he stands in the hierarchy of quarterbacks in the league. And that's where a lot of this is coming from. And that's not a knock on Jalen at all. He is who he is. Very talented quarterback. Lots of positives with him. But sometimes, and that's okay. Not everybody is going to be the elite quarterback or they're the elite player in their league. Doesn't mean he can't be a good one. We saw him win a Super Bowl. And I think that's where a lot of the benching is coming from, is people thinking and saying he's better than what maybe he is. And that's not a Jalen Hurts problem. That's a you problem. That's you for over evaluating and over saying how good he was. So didn't really want to get into that rant, and I really had one line to talk about with that, and just I've been bottling that up and I feel better. But under no circumstances do you bench Jalen Hurts. Period. End of conversation. Thank God Nick Sirianni is the one making the decision and not some of these knuckleheads calling into WIP. Joe Giglio. All right. They are in action, though. Sunday, 1 o'clock against the Raiders. Brotherly Birds Breakdown is out. Lots more rants like that. If you like the rants and whatever, lots to talk about, so go check that out wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Flyers hung tough with perennial Stanley Cup contender the Las Vegas Golden Knights last night, but lose it 3-2 in overtime. Trevor Zegras scored again, and he's a fun player to watch. I think the Flyers need to extend him. He's been a good fit with this team. But overall, solid performance by the Flyers, who are off today before playing at home and home this weekend against the Carolina Panthers. Saturdays at the X. Sunday is down in Carolina. Sixers back in action tonight against the Pacers. Probably will see Joel Embiid, which is good. I think the more we see him, the better. But they're down at the X. They'll be wearing the black jerseys tonight against the Pacers. And then they go to Atlanta on Sunday. Maybe we'll see Joe twice this weekend. Would be pretty nice. The Villanova Wildcats play their quarterfinal matchup against Tarleton State down in Texas, looking to advance to the semifinals. This is going to be a tough game for the Wildcats. Tarleton State has one of the better offenses in FCS, but the Wildcats have been playing great defense, so I'm going to try to tune into this one in between basketball games tomorrow. It's going to be a good one. No real updates on the Phillies. Hopefully this weekend we see some possible movement, and I think once they get JT signed, that's when you can start doing some of the other moves and things like that. But yesterday's trivia question, we talked about Joe having a 50-point game, and I asked you who are the three, or I didn't say three, I said who are the players who have scored 60 or more points for the Sixers, and there are only three of them, believe it or not. That's Wilt Chamberlain, Joel Embiid, and Allen Iverson are your answers for that. All right, I mentioned the Brotherly Birds breakdown. Be sure to follow me on social media at Philly Jimbo, all social media platforms. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont, and continue to spread the word as we grow this thing. Like, subscribe, review, all that other good stuff. And today's the last day for the third annual Maddie N. Dixon Community Cupboard Gift and Food Drive. Going to go over this morning, drop off some supplies, but still not too late to donate. The link will expire at midnight, so go to my social media, scan the QR code, and get your donations in. And then our reverse advent calendar items of the day, shampoo and bar soap. Something that is one of those things that we often take for granted, but is a major need for these food cupboards. And then today's random act of kindness, let someone merge in front of you. If you're in traffic, at a stop sign, let them go first. If you're walking, let them walk in front of you. Be nice to a biker. Hold the door open for someone. Just do something like that where it's just an easy thing to do. You don't even have to think about it. And if you're not driving, you're not doing any of that, simply just smile at someone, and it can go a long way in making their day. This day in Philly sports history is proud to be a part of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network, a growing community of diehard fans turning their sports passion into something special. Whether you're looking for unique shows, want to launch your own podcast but don't have the time, or need production services, the ClashingConferences.com has everything you need. Explore fan-driven content, become a member, or tap into their media services to level up your brand. That's ClashingConferences.com, where fans' voices get heard. All right, December 12th. First, we're going to go back to 1976. Dick Vermeil finishes out his first season on a high note, beating the Seahawks at the Vet 27-10. It was the first ever meeting between the Eagles and the Seahawks. Eagles had two rushers go over 100 yards from the day. Tom Sullivan had 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mike Hogan had 104 yards. Defense forced 2 turnovers as the Eagles finish out the 76 season on a high note. However, they did finish 4-10, but 77 is when things started to change. Ron Jaworski comes in as quarterback. Cousin Wilbert Montgomery comes in as running back, and we start to see the upward trajectory of the Eagles. But they do finish the season 4-10, but with a win 27-10 over the expansion Seattle Seahawks in their first ever meeting. And that does lead to today's trivia question. It's the weekend. I like to give you a longer, more difficult one. And the Eagles have a losing record against how many teams? Well, I shouldn't say how many teams. They have, I have it right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. 11 of the 32 teams the Eagles have a losing record against. Who are those teams? Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off of your chest. But which 11 teams do the Eagles have a losing record against? The other teams they're 500 or better against. So have fun this weekend trying to figure that out. I was able to get 6 of the 11 automatically. The other 5 were kind of a shocking one to me. All right. Fast forward to 2005. Chris Webber. Yes, Chris Webber gave the Sixers fans some hope when he had 27 points and 21 rebounds with 2 blocks in the Sixers' 90-89 overtime win over the Timberwolves. Allen Iverson had 19 with 10 assists, but struggled from the field. And kids, you heard that right. 90-89 in overtime. It was a different game back in the 2000s. A 90-89 overtime game. It's like a third quarter score at this point. But it was fool's gold, all for nothing, as the Sixers did make the playoffs that year, finishing, I believe they were the 9th seed that year. Would have made the play-in tournament in today's NBA. But we remember how that all fell apart, that Iverson and Chris Webber missed fan appreciation night, and then both were gone within the next season or two. Webber was out of the league, I think. But for one night, Chris Webber gave us all hope. 27 points, 21 rebounds, and 2 blocks as the Sixers beat the Timberwolves 90-89 in overtime. Again, it was you think people complain about the NBA product today being bad? Oh, man. Some of those games were brutal to watch in the mid-2000s. All right, fast forward to 2008, and on this day, the Phillies made a huge free agent signing, kind of an under the radar, but turned into a huge free agent signing when they signed Raul Ibanez to a 3-year, $30 million contract to play left field, replacing fan favorite Pat Burrell. Ended up being a great pickup as Ibanez just provided more consistent power than what Pat Burrell had there at the end of his career. But Raul Ibanez signs on this day in 2008. And then in 2010, the Eagles go down to Dallas for Sunday Night Football and come out with a 30-27 win. Michael Vick had 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, ran for 1. Shady had 149 rushing yards. Deshaun Jackson had 210 yards on 4 catches, including a 91-yard touchdown. Todd Hermans even scored a touchdown in this game as the Eagles improved to 9-4. They were tied for first place with the Giants, setting up a huge showdown the following week. This was the first year post Donovan McNabb and Brian Westbrook. And honestly, with those 3 guys, Michael Vick, LaShawn McCoy, and Deshaun Jackson, how did this team not win a Super Bowl? Like, those numbers are ridiculous. And this was a pedestrian game, really, the way Vic played in 2010. 270 yards, 3 total touchdowns. But Shady almost 150 yards. Deshaun Jackson 200 yards receiving. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But Eagles move into a first place tie with the Giants on this day, beating the Cowboys 30-27 on Sunday Night Football down in Dallas.
It's time for Fridays with AI, where we ask AI to rewrite Philly sports history. Every Friday only on This Day in Philly Sports History.
That's right. It is Friday. That means it's time for Fridays with AI, brought to you as always by Philly Goat. You have only a few more hours left, I think, to get your orders in for guaranteed Christmas delivery, but they got you covered for all your holiday shopping needs. Don't know what to buy? Buy a gift card and use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com, promo code Jim Montgomery, all one word, to take 10% off of your order. All right, so this game on Sunday should be relatively easy, but I don't know. In my head, Kenny Pickett is starting a quarterback. It's going to be cold. Something in my brain is not allowing me to believe that this is going to be a blowout. So when AI came to visit this week, I said, I need some help, AI. Make me believe that the rest of this season is going to play out well for the Eagles. AI said, sure. How about I simulate the rest of the 4 games, then run the rest of the playoffs and show you where and how this Eagles season will end. And I was like, great. Hopefully this will get me ready for the weekend. So this Sunday, Eagles beat the Raiders 31-17. The offense gets it together, looks a lot smoother. They rely a lot on Saquon Barkley to run. Jalen Hurts starts running the ball more consistently. And the defense just is the defense. Defense really just kind of keeps where they've been the past game or so, minus the Bears game. But Eagles beat the Raiders 31-17. Following week, they go down to D.C. and beat the Commanders 24-20. Defense stars in what was a hard-hitting, typical, sloppy NFC East game. Jalen still pretty solid. Turns the ball over, throws an interception, but it's the defense that makes the difference. The next week, they go up to Buffalo, which is at the beginning of the season, looked like it may be a tough game. Now it looks an even tougher game. There were parts in this season where it didn't look like a tough game. So who knows which team is going to show up. But AI says the weather plays a factor in this game. Eagles lose 24-21. Jalen Hurts is solid. The defense plays well. It's just one of those games where the Eagles come out on the short end. So it has them 2-1 in the next three. And then finally, last game of the season at the Link, Eagles beat the Commanders 28-14. They win the NFC East. Everybody's confident because the offense starts having more of a resemblance of the offense we saw last year. They go into the playoffs as the third seed, meaning no bye. So they're playing a wild card game at the Link. Welcome the 49ers to the Link on wild card weekend. Eagles come out with a 27-17. It was a very businesslike. The defense dominates, scores a touchdown. Jalen Hurts was solid. And then as we're moving, more and more confidence are coming from the fans. So all the people that are calling for Jalen to get benched finally start saying, all right, maybe Jalen is Jalen after all. But they move on to the divisional round, head out to Lambeau Field to take on the second seeded Packers. Go in, pull off the upset, 27-24. AI just seems to think that the Eagles have Jordan Love and the Packers' number. It was a defensive battle. Jalen was solid and comes through in the clutch, leading a late fourth quarter touchdown drive, hits Dallas Goedert from 10 yards out to give the Eagles the 27-24 win and send them back to the NFC Championship game for the third time in 4 years. In the NFC Championship game, they head out to LA to take on a familiar rival, the Rams. Unfortunately, this is where AI says the season ends. They lose 27-24 in a great game. And unfortunately, Jalen throws an interception late in the game inside the red zone as the Eagles were driving to take the go-ahead score. Fans go nuts, and it sets off a frenzy. Like, AI gets it at least. AI said the fans are going to not be happy this offseason as the Eagles lose in the NFC Championship game 27-24 out in LA. So what are your thoughts? Let's have some fun this weekend. I gave you a longer trivia question. What are your predictions for the game? What are your predictions for the rest of the season? And please, 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 if you're one of the people who think that Jalen Hurts should be benched, let me know about it on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. Let's have some fun this weekend. Go Birds. But that is Fridays with AI, brought to you as always by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. They have you covered for your holiday stuff. Ryan and the team over there are awesome. They're working on some stuff for my wife's work. So great company, great organization, awesome t-shirts and hoodies and Eagles, Philly sports, I should say, not just Eagles, accessories and clothing, and use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right, on this day in 2010, Eagles beat the Cowboys 30-27. Michael Vick had 3 total touchdowns. LaShawn McCoy ran wild. Deshaun Jackson had 200 receiving yards, and even Todd Herman scored a touchdown. Philly signed Raul Banez on this day in 2008. 2005, Chris Webber turned back the clock, had 27 points, 21 rebounds as the Sixers beat the Timberwolves 90-89 in overtime. That is not a mistake. That was the score. And the Eagles beat the Seahawks 27-10 to end the 1976 season on a high note, but it put the wheels in motion. Ron Jaworski comes in, they draft Wilbur Montgomery, and they would be in the Super Bowl 4 years later. Again, let me know your picks for the Eagles. I got the Eagles winning this game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think the Raiders cover this game. I got it 20-10. I think we're going to be feel a little bit better, but I think this script is going to go very much how most of the wins. Defense gets the job done. Offense struggles, but scores just enough to beat the Raiders. But again, let me know your thoughts. 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Stay warm out there, everyone. It's going to be a cold, cold weekend. I ordered a new Eagles jacket for my birthday. I don't think it's going to be here in time for the game on Sunday, which I'm very disappointed about. So I'm going to go like the kid from A Christmas Story, probably with so many layers on, and probably sweat my ass off on the subway on the way down. But this has been This Day in Philly Sports History for December 12th, 2025. My name's Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a feel-good Friday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.